This is GamesAtWork.biz, your weekly podcast about gaming, technology, and play. Your hosts are Michael Martin, Andy Piper, and Michael Rowe. The thoughts and opinions on this podcast are those of the hosts and guests alone and are not the opinions of any organization which they have been, are, or may be affiliated with.
This is episode 537 of Reading, Listening, and Building Together. Hello and welcome again to GamesAtWork.biz. This is Michael Martin coming to you in 2026. Oh my gosh, it is a new year, so happy new year everybody. And while Michael is focused on work activity as he needs to today, I'm delighted to be joined by co-host Mr. Andy Piper. Andy, how are you doing today?
Happy New Year, Michael. I'm well, thanks. It's good to see you and nice to mix it up a bit, having done the last show of last year with Michael and Ian. It's good to see the other Michael today. And yeah, we've kind of freestyled our set list a little bit here. We've got some fun things to talk about. So yeah, let's dive in.
Yeah, let's do. So a little different from what we normally do on the podcast, but won't be that different in terms of our free-ranging ability. We've got some stories here, and the stories from a series of books that I've been reading recently, and I'm eager to dive into those. As Andy alluded, we have a set list here too, which does have some music incorporated into it, so we'll hit some of that. And in our pre-show production meeting, Andy and I were riffing a lot on Lego, as we do once or twice on this show for long-term listeners. You know that. And there's some fun stuff going on in that world. So we're going to hit all of those. So in the reading section, when I'm on vacation, I try to spend my time reading, and I try to get as many of the books in as I possibly can. I was delighted to have a week off. Mm-hmm. And my most recent area of major interest has been around neurology, around consciousness, around astrophysics and quantum physics, and the interrelationship amongst all of them. And in the last week and a half or so, plowed through well over 1,000 pages that incorporated a number of those themes. And one of the ones that I was really eager to share with you, Andy, and with our listeners and everyone else kind of goes around music. And you might say, well, Michael, what the heck does quantum physics, the holographic universe, and all this have to do around music? And Andy, you have a point right away, don't you?
Well, I just want to ask, Michael, what the hell does all of this have to do with music?
So you did ask all that.
I couldn't remember exactly what you just said, so I just kind of hand waved on video, on audio.
No, that worked out pretty well. Well, it has a lot to do with music, and it has a lot to do with the meditative qualities and the ability to change an emotional set of intentions of how you want to be and represent into the world. And it's really intriguing to me how that kind of comes. Let me kind of explain the meditation component of it and how that comes into where music comes. We've talked on our show here on more than one occasion about flow and how you get into the zone. You are able to be so focused in on what it is that you're doing that time seems to stand still, and you are reading, you are playing a game, you are working, you're playing music in a way that you get the chills. And that is an entry point in many ways around how that intention, that the music, whether you're performing it or whether you're listening to it or whether you're surrounding yourself with it in one way or another, all comes to play in a really intriguing way. And the book that got me going on this, it really called to me, which is kind of funny, was a national bestseller. I think in the UK it was published as Music as Medicine or something along those lines. But in the US it was the title was I Heard There Was a Secret Chord. And that is the opening, not the opening, but one of the lines in the Hallelujah song that maybe you and some of our listeners are familiar with. And this particular book talks a great deal about how music has operated as medicine for people, and to help put people in the right frame of mind for miraculous recoveries in certain circumstances, and in others to be able to really crystallize and focus intention in the world. And as we're starting a new year, a lot of folks think about their goals and objectives and what is it that they want to accomplish, what are they going to stop doing, start doing, continue doing. And this really called to me in a major way. And it was super funny for me, the level of synchronicity that happened. I was reading the book. I was listening to some live music as this was going on, and the musicians there decided to sing Hallelujah. It came to them. They made mention of the fact that they haven't sung this song before. Someone in the audience suggested it. And they really enjoyed it. And after their set was over, I went up to them and I said, "Hey, I just want to show you this book."
Right.
Because this is what I've been reading. And it was one of those moments of like synchronicity in time that was really super. Have you experienced this sort of thing before, Andy, where you've been so lost in the music that it's really been like that flow state for you?
I don't think, I'm trying to think of that, whether or not. I mean, I enjoy music. I'm gonna kind of jump ahead a bit here, because we've got a few things that I've been watching, I've seen lately, which have been fascinating to watch, but they've been about the act of creation of music, which is not something I'm very familiar with in terms of the theory, the understanding. There's one particular video that I watched recently, which is a young man called Jacob Collier, who live improvises a tune with a symphony orchestra on stage. And he refers to Ben Folds, who's one of my favorite musicians, having done this.
And five.
Absolutely. Having done this at the Kennedy Center a number of years ago. And I've now also watched the Ben Folds version of that, of this same practice. But in the case of Ben Folds, he is on the piano and basically giving keys to sections of the orchestra, and the conductor is then conducting the orchestra, whereas Jacob Collier walks on stage as this young man with crazy hair and does it directly himself without like reference to the conductor. He literally is getting the conducting each bit and getting them to produce the note and doing it all live. And just watching both of them with an understanding of the music and the notes and the different instruments in the orchestra and the ways in which they can be manipulated or brought together or layered together was just incredible to me. So I think for me, it's been the mechanics and understanding of how the music layers together, or watching it come together, as much as what you described, where there may be this particular music that causes me to kind of zone into a flow state. So I'm coming at it from a different angle, but I am very curious to learn or read potentially what you've just been talking about, because I wasn't aware of that. I mean, the thing that when I saw the secret chord on our list, it reminded me of an episode of Doctor Who, which was the Devil's Chord, which is different, a different thing. But really, really fascinating stuff.
So I have like three reactions in my head, and I'm going to try to parse them out and maybe not lose all of them. One of the pieces that I was listening to, and so I'll put the link tree into the secret chord, and I'll at least put this particular song in place so folks can hear it. Ella Fitzgerald sang "Mac the Knife." And this is one of the in the book, they were so nice to give you the examples of all the music, so you could listen to the music as you were going through the book, or you could hear what the author was trying to talk about, by listening to the piece. So one of the things that this particular rendition from Ella Fitzgerald, it was sung live in Berlin. And for our German listening people. You might know the song as Mackie Messel, and that's the song that kind of goes through my head when I think about it. It's from the Tlaikoshinopo, so you hear some of that stuff. So Ella Fitzgerald was singing this live. It was very popular at the time, and she forgot the words. And she was able to improvise, to do some scat, to rhyme into the song and deliver it anyway. And it's one of those moments that you listen to it, even as a recording from years and years ago, that the hair stands up on the back of your neck, because she admitted that she didn't know the lyrics. She sang and improvised anyway, and it worked, and it was fantastic. Splendid.
And that reminds me, of what both Ben Folds and Jacob Collier do, which is to, in the end, not to spoil it too much, repurpose existing tunes with different words. So kind of similar situation.
Yes.
But,
yes. Yeah. Now that's the other thing that you reminded me of with Jacob Collier was something I learned in Puerto Rico as we were on vacation. A really intriguing thing that I had no idea about is that in typical Puerto Rican music, there are drums, and the drums are a major component of the musical scene in Puerto Rico. And what I learned was that the dancers don't dance to the music. The dancers lead the music, and that the drummers watch the dancers for the movements that they make, and they alter their drumming based on that. So the dancer is the conductor,
right,
Andy. And to me, this was fascinating. It's like, oh my gosh, so anyone with a Puerto Rican background is probably, of course, Michael, I knew that. And you did, but I didn't. This was new to me.
Wow.
And I'm so used to a conductor, and the Jacob Collier kind of example is, him getting on stage and in his outfit and conducting the orchestra kind of reminded me of this being a new thing. And it's again, another fascinating thing that you think the world is one way, and it's not necessarily.
Interesting. Yes.
The other pieces of what I've got in the book section that I think are useful is a book that I read a long time ago but haven't recently, from Rosamund Stone Zander and Benjamin Zander, about the art of possibility. And this particular book has as a corollary to it a TED Talk that Benjamin Zander gives on the transformational power of classical music. It's one of the things I like to watch every year or two. You have to be in the right frame of mind to watch it. You need to be in a space and a place where if you were to become a little emotional, that's okay. So you need to be someplace that's a little quiet. But he talks about what the power of classical music is. So maybe after you watch the Jason Collier piece, it'll be fun to also then watch and listen to that particular TED Talk. It's kind of short, but it really talks to what the power is of music to move people, to create that intention and emotion, and then deliver it into the world in a meaningful way. So really, really love that. The other book that I did read, and I'm not going through my entire bibliography around this, but I came across this one in Boston, and I was so enamored with it, and I was like, I need to get this. And I was reading it on our vacation last week, and it is How Music Works by David Byrne.
Coming around to the musical layering again. Yeah, okay.
Yes. So this is from the Talking Heads, if you guys recognize this particular guy. And he talks about his musical journey, and he talks about how technology shapes music and how advances in technology moved things further in the musical sphere. So I'm a big Talking Heads fan, have been for a really long time. And he illustrates all of the pieces around it, both the sound, the technology, the instrumentation, the vocals, and then all the other pieces that go along with it, the marketing aspects, the costuming, and a whole range of others about what the venues look like and why certain music works in certain venues and others don't. Another really fantastic thing. He talks in this book about mixtapes, and Andy, you know this, and several others do too. And the notion of a mixtape is certainly a big thing for our generation because we used to use cassettes to exchange music with our friends, and it created that sort of reciprocity kind of moment in time. If you created a mixtape for someone, you were sending a message. Ordinarily, you were sending a message that you couldn't say yourself, but you could express yourself through song. And he talks about mixtapes in here too, which I found so delightful given the fact that for my convocation speech to the School of Science and Math this year, that was exactly what I was trying to do too, was to express my thoughts both in prose and in music.
And I thought you did,
just loved it.
I thought you did a great job with that. I really enjoyed that, both that talk and the mixtape that you delivered for the school. I thought that was really fun as well, to connect kind of a life journey or a life lessons into music and musical beats and things that are reminiscent of your time going through the same stages that you see for those young people. I thought that was really fun.
Thank you, Andy. I had a delightful time doing it, and every song means something. And sometimes it's the song, sometimes it's the emotion, sometimes it's the lyric. And it's one of those things where, going back to my English classes in high school, you were oftentimes having to write an essay about what did the author really mean when the author did this, that, and the other.
Sure.
And that annoyed the heck out of me so much that I remember penning short stories with all of the deliberate dangling hooks there for a reader to say, oh, here's what Michael was thinking when he wrote this. So I could say, you don't know what I was thinking. I put that in there to mislead you so you would think you knew what I was thinking, but I didn't. Oh, my goodness. So, now, you had something from Bolero that you had really enjoyed sharing, too.
There's a few things that we could run through real quick, probably. We've got a couple of other music-related things. One that came up on my radar this week that I enjoyed watching is a Swedish gentleman who has done a lot of, actually, I'd never come across him before, at least I don't remember having done so, but he's done a lot of different things with SID, so the 8-bit kind of music synthesizer that was in the Commodore 64 and other things we'll come back to later on. Point a little pin in the show notes there for coming back around to Commodore 64. But he's done a lot with chip tunes and other sets of things, and he's created over the course of a number of years a load of instruments out of retro computers. You may remember a while ago, I think we talked about or saw somebody who'd built a accordion out of Commodore 64s, where you had a kind of an old Commodore 64 either side. He certainly plays one in this video. I don't know whether he was the person that invented that particular one, but he's got a load of other instruments in it, and he's spent evidently at least 6 months last year putting together this performance of the Bolero. It's quite a long 14 minutes or so video of him playing it using a number of these different instruments. And the other cool thing about his website is he makes all of his music available to download as MP3s as well. So if you do enjoy it, then you can put it on your music player of choice and jam out to some 8-bit chip tunes. But it's just so inventive. I spent most of my time watching it just trying to figure out the instruments, and then I went to look at his blog and discovered that he's written about the instruments. So it's really neat, and he's a very inventive person. We also, as we were talking about this at the beginning of the show, you mentioned to me something about toothbrushes making music, and I said, oh yes, of course, a toothbrush orchestra, and we searched for it, and it was the Device Orchestra, who I've come across a few times before, which is a bunch of retro and modern gadgets that typically have googly eyes applied to them and are then orchestrated together to cover such things as Lady Gaga or Queen or other well-known tracks.
Oh, how cool.
So it's super funny. It's quite annoying depending on your preference for music and the low fidelity of trying to recreate it using buzzing noises and old receipt printers, but it's also super fun to watch.
One of the things that the Bolero example reminded me of, because what he does is he's showing a multi-track kind of thing where he's playing multiple times together,
exactly.
With different views, was something that my son Cal did during the pandemic, and I think I shared some of those with you guys
I've seen
too.
it before.
So I'm going to drop in one of the show examples of Empire's State of Mind, where Cal is the performer on multiple instruments in the same track, and it's really kind of cool stuff that way too. All right, so let's switch gears to the Lego side, because there's so much fun stuff here to talk about.
1st of January, or 1st of every month, or not every month, but there are certain months of the year where Lego does a big drop of new stuff. And I think yesterday, the 1st of January, we're recording on the 2nd, there were over 150 new sets that all arrived at once across all of their different ranges. And Michael sent a little picture to Michael and I highlighting a couple of players in a band. One of them has got a sousaphone, which is Michael's instrument, and I was looking at it and thinking, what set is this from? And it turns out that it's from one of the new Lego modular buildings. It's a particular set, and there's a bunch of minifigs in there, and one of the things in this particular modular building set is meant to be kind of like a shopping street, corner of a European shopping street kind of area. So you've kind of got the little bit of a town square-ish section, and then you've got a couple of shops on either corner, and one of them is a music shop, which I hadn't looked inside, but Michael did, and found these cute little musicians in there. So how are you feeling about Lego finally making it onto the map with your kind of character?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting how they created it. It almost, to me, would be like they need to have a special, sousaphone with sort of that would fit around the neck, so you could put it on that way.
Well, it looks like they've used, some existing curved pieces. It looks to me like they've got a piece on the minifig around the waist, which has got a little clip that you probably plug a couple of curved pieces onto, that then come around the back of his head with the horn. But I can't exactly see how it's built, but it certainly looks fun.
Yeah, I need to find a way to build that myself. I'm sure I can with it. You mean
you don't want to pay $300 for the set to get that one character?
Well, I thought about it, and there's a related thought here too. So Commander Riker,
yes,
you may or may not know, plays the trombone.
Yes,
and his trombone is likewise an interesting creation in Lego. It's not exactly super deluxe trombone looking,
right?
And you can't exactly do a slide easily with Lego pieces, but you can get Commander Riker and his trombone if you were to buy the Next Generation Enterprise set, because he, amongst a variety of others, Deanna Troi and Picard and so many others, are in there if you wanted to get that particular set.
Yeah, you see, there's no Tasha Yar, which is very upsetting in that particular set.
True.
They replaced her with Guinan, I guess. So this is definitely Series 3 onwards, TNG set, the Enterprise. So the Enterprise set sold out immediately when it was released on Black Friday, and has been back order, although it is now back on the shelves in some stores, but I don't know whether it's available on the website. But again, this is a very expensive set, and as I was saying to Michael beforehand, there's nine minifigs in the Enterprise set, and it's typically the minifigs that significantly increase the price of the model. It's if you're looking at a model that is in the $200-300 dollars kind of range, then there's probably quite a few minifigs with it, which I mean, yes, it will probably have a lot of pieces as well and be complex to build, and probably be targeted at adults because they're the ones that have the extra pounds to throw onto purchasing small plastic bricks. But I'm looking at the Commander Riker figure, and I see what you mean. It's a brick-built trombone, but it doesn't look too complicated. It's one of the joys of Lego is they do generally try to avoid creating brand new pieces unless there's a good reason to, and then it can be reused in a different way. So, it's cleverly done.
Yeah, I like it, and I've got here in front of me my grouping of Doctor Who characters,
pieces, yeah.
and they have, of course, the sonic screwdriver, which looks remarkably the same across Doctors, but
not until you get to the 13th and 14th and 15th Doctors. But anyway, yes, yeah.
And there's also the fabulous site minifigs.me. So if you do need a particular minifig, that is a great place to go to get one. And they do phenomenal work. So I love what they do.
We also geeked out at the beginning before we started recording with retro Lego consoles. So I have the Game Boy, which is super fun, and it's got some really nice touches. And we were talking about the possibility of having it converted to play real games, and I kind of just the way that the set is put together is so faithful and so thoughtful and so cleverly done, with the way that the controls are done with a little rubber band or pieces to give them a little squidginess as if you were pressable buttons. Is really nice, and I think they've brought that back into the retro console, non-branded retro console that's just come out yesterday as well, which I have on order because that looks fun. But whilst we're talking retro things, I mentioned earlier on that we were putting a pin in the mention of a Commodore 64, and the Commodore 64 Ultimate is the new old Commodore 64 that's been faithfully recreated using an FPGA. So it's one of these field programmable gate arrays, so the processor in it acts exactly like the Commodore 64. It's had a few small upgrades to accommodate modern times, so specifically it has HDMI out, but otherwise it is remarkably faithful, and according to the reviews, you can run many of your original, if you still have them, peripherals from the 1980s with it directly without any need for modification or anything like that, because it is pretending to be the actual silicon that the Commodore 64 had with the same ports. It does sound like, I read a few people, I think Sean Heber posted on Mastodon about it and talked about the fact that his kids had a lot of fun typing in programs, which made me really happy to read, because they were evidently targeting this kind of digital detox kind of idea. You're not going to do high-speed internet web browsing on a 8-bit computer, which largely has no graphical computer interface. There is, in fact, it's not Gem UI. What's it called? The GUI.
Geos.
Geos. That's right. The Geos UI that they provide with it as well, to give you that kind of more modern Windows-ish sense of interaction. But yeah, that looks really nice. They've got a super blinged out version with a transparent case filled with RGB LEDs, but they also have one that is very faithful to the original look.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. And, wouldn't it be fun to plug in your cassette recorder and play your mixtape through your Commodore 64?
I mean, the thing I'm seeing more and more now are people selling SD card or just in-memory SSD style adapters to pretend they are floppy drives for your retro machine. So if you have a retro machine, then you typically just stick in an SD card and it will read it as if it was a floppy drive. So when I went 3 months ago to a retro computing exhibit in our town here in Kingston, almost every, if not every, device there had some kind of adapter that let the software be loaded from a modern form of media. And those, typically when I'm browsing around hardware hacking sites, are the kinds of things that are quite commonplace now.
So all we need is a newsletter that is done on a mimeograph machine that can be passed around with code, so that, folks could then type it in manually and see if they get it to work.
Absolutely.
Right? Because that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're nearly done here. We had a couple of last things that we wanted to touch on super deluxe fast, didn't we?
Yeah. So these are both links that I threw in here. So one of them is a game on itch, an indie game website. and you can go play it in the browser. Apparently, it's mobile friendly. Did I play it on mobile? Maybe I did. Anyway, it's a text type adventure game. You don't have to really type anything. You just make some decisions and click yes or no. It's a kind of a click through thing. It is from Woe Industries, WOE, on itch.io, and it's titled "You Have Billions Invested in Generative AI," and you play the part of a powerful VC that has got some money invested in generative AI, and you make some choices as you go along to see how that turns out for you. So that's one of them. And
very cool.
The other one is just a note that, and I think I mentioned it on my last episode with Michael and Ian, that I think it was that weekend after we recorded the last Games at Work, I also recorded Tech Grumps Christmas special as a one-off or irregular appearance on that show. So I've got a link to the Tech Grumps Christmas special in the show notes here as well.
And lots of grumpiness on there. I can see from the show notes.
And that cuckoo noise behind Michael, which he evidently didn't hear, or if he's probably if he did hear, then he's probably noise cancelled and it came through his microphone and he couldn't hear it.
Well, that cuckoo lets us know it is time for us to go. So, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. It was from my boyhood. My grandparents gave that clock to me when I was just a kid, and I love having it, and I love the fact that it works still, and that there's someone that I know I can trust to go and repair it. So, because it needs repair every once in a while too.
All right, so on that cuckoo note, it's been good to get started on another year of Games at Work, and we will talk to you next time.
See ya.
You've been listening to GamesAtWork.biz, the podcast about gaming technology and play. We are part of the Blueberry Podcasting Network, and would like to thank the band Random Encounters for their song, Big Blue. You can follow us at our website at GamesAtWork.biz.